A stranger tried to steal my shopping cart. I made her regret it. The grocery store on Saturday afternoons is basically a war zone. People move with carts like they're armored tanks, blocking aisles, bumping into each other, acting like the last bag of rice could decide their fate. I knew it would be chaos, but I didn't have a choice. My fridge was empty, I'd been working long hours all week, and the only free time I had left was that one Saturday afternoon. So I put on my headphones, grabbed my reusable bags, and drove to the nearest supermarket, already bracing myself for the storm. The parking lot looked like something out of a disaster movie. Cars circling for spaces, kids crying, people arguing over trolleys. I parked as far away as I could just to avoid the madness near the entrance. Inside, the fluorescent lights hit me like a punch. The store was packed. I grabbed a cart and told myself to just power through. No browsing, no distractions, just get what I came for. Bread, milk, vegetables, toiletries, the boring basics of adult survival. It didn't take long before I started to notice her. At first, she was just another shopper, maybe in her 40s, dressed in an oversized coat with a designer purse hanging from her arm. Nothing unusual. But she kept appearing. Same aisle, same row, hovering just close enough that I could feel her eyes flicking to my cart every time I passed. I brushed it off. Maybe she just had a similar list. I was halfway through the store when I finally hit my rhythm. Music in my ears, list half checked off. I was feeling proud of my efficiency. I'd loaded my cart with everything I needed. Chicken breasts, pasta, fruit, detergent, even treated myself to some snacks I hadn't planned to buy. My cart was basically a masterpiece of well-planned shopping. Then came the chaos. The produce section was overflowing with people. I squeezed my cart into a narrow space near the tomatoes, left it for maybe 15 seconds to grab a few bunches of bananas that were just out of reach. When I turned back, my cart was gone. At first, my brain didn't even process it. I thought maybe I'd walked too far down the row. I glanced left, then right. Nothing. My stomach dropped. I knew I'd left it right by the tomatoes. I spun around, scanning for the bright red reusable bag I'd placed in the front basket. Nothing. And then I saw her. That same woman in the oversized coat, pushing a cart that looked suspiciously familiar. Same brand of cereal, same bag of oranges, same box of pasta right on top. My reusable bag sat right in the front basket, practically waving at me. For a split second I froze. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe we just liked the same items. But then I caught sight of my handwritten shopping list, half folded under the milk. My handwriting. My pen. My list. Something inside me clicked. I walked straight up to her, keeping my voice calm but firm. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like my ribs might crack. She looked at me with this fake innocent expression, the kind people wear when they're about to lie through their teeth. My cart sat between us, full of my things, and she had one hand on the handle like she owned it. I reached out, grabbed the edge of the cart, and started pulling it back toward me. Her grip tightened. It became this weird silent tug-of-war in the middle of the produce aisle, two strangers locked in an absurd battle over groceries while people stared. I pointed to my reusable bag, the one with my initials stitched in the corner, and waited. She didn't let go. I felt this hot rush of anger rise up, the kind that makes your face burn. I wasn't about to make a scene, but I also wasn't about to let some random woman walk off with my groceries after I'd spent the last hour collecting them. I took a deep breath, reached into the cart, and pulled out my list, the proof, my name right at the top. She glared at me like I'd just ruined her day. Without a word, she finally let go. I wheeled the cart back, every muscle in my body tight. The other shoppers stared for a few seconds, then went back to pretending nothing happened. I should have left it at that. I should have just finished my shopping, checked out, and gone home. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. 10 minutes later, I was in the dairy section when I felt someone brush past me. I turned, and there she was again. She had a new cart this time, almost empty, but her eyes darted to mine like she was daring me to say something. I ignored her, pretending to compare yogurt labels while watching her from the corner of my eye. She lingered, muttering under her breath, hovering close enough to make it uncomfortable. Every aisle I moved to, she somehow appeared again, always a few feet behind. I started to feel uneasy. When I finally made it to the checkout, I thought I'd escaped her. My cart was full, I was ready to leave, and the line was moving quickly. I unloaded everything onto the conveyor belt, pulled out my phone to check messages, and tried to breathe. Then I heard her voice, sharp, loud, accusing. She was at the next checkout lane, pointing at me, talking fast. The cashier glanced over, clearly uncomfortable. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught phrases like, stole my cart, and called me a liar. My jaw dropped. She was doubling down. People started looking, whispering. The cashier asked me to wait for a moment while she called for a supervisor. My heart pounded. This was ridiculous. I could feel every eye in that line on me like I was the villain in some reality show. When the supervisor arrived, I calmly explained everything. How she'd taken my cart, how my reusable bag and list had been inside, how she'd followed me since. The supervisor asked if I had proof. I showed my initials stitched on the bag and the matching shopping list. The woman's face twisted into this fake offended mask, insisting she'd accidentally taken the wrong cart, and that I was harassing her. The supervisor wasn't buying it. They checked the security camera footage near the produce section. I waited, hands shaking as they reviewed it in the back. When they returned, their expression said everything. The footage showed her taking my cart, looking around and walking off with it while I was still by the bananas. Her face went pale. The people around us started murmuring. Someone even laughed quietly. The supervisor told her to leave the store immediately or they'd call security. She muttered something under her breath, grabbed her purse and stormed off, head low. The relief that washed over me was incredible, but it was mixed with this raw, shaky adrenaline. I finished paying, bagged my things and headed for the door. Outside, the air felt heavier, like the tension of the past hour had clung to me. I loaded my groceries into the trunk, checking every bag like someone might still take something from me. When I looked up, I saw her again, standing by a silver SUV, pretending to be on her phone but staring straight at me. The parking lot felt suddenly too quiet, too open. She didn't move until I got in my car. Even then, she just stood there watching as I backed out. I drove home in silence, every muscle tense. The whole way back, my brain replayed the scene. The cart, the stairs, her voice echoing across the checkout line. By the time I got home, the absurdity of it all started to sink in. I'd gone shopping for groceries and ended up in a showdown with a stranger over something so simple, but the entitlement of it burned in my mind. Later that evening, I posted about it in a local community group, partly to vent, partly to warn people. The comments blew up. Turns out she was known. Multiple people recognized her description and said she'd pulled similar stunts before, taking other people's carts, arguing over items, even pretending to claim things that weren't hers in stores. One person even mentioned she'd tried to get out of paying for someone else's groceries once. It was like uncovering a small urban legend. The cart lady. For a while I laughed it off. But something about the encounter stuck with me. Maybe it was how easily she'd twisted the story, how confidently she'd lied, how she didn't seem remotely ashamed even after being caught. It made me realize how many people move through life like that, convinced they're the main character, that everyone else is just an obstacle to their convenience. A few weeks later, I ran into her again. Not in the same store, thankfully, but at a smaller market closer to my apartment. She saw me before I saw her. I noticed her turn down a different aisle the moment our eyes met. For a second I thought about saying something, but then I decided not to. Some people don't learn through confrontation. They learn through silence, the kind of silence that reminds them they're irrelevant. I went about my shopping, calm this time, unbothered. But I made sure to keep my cart in sight at all times. Now whenever I see someone walk a little too far from their cart, I can't help but keep an eye on it. Not because I expect another thief, but because I remember how easily someone can justify bad behavior in their own mind. The funniest part? A few days after the incident, the store's manager reached out to me through the community group. They'd identified her from the footage and banned her from all their locations. I didn't ask for that to happen, but I won't pretend I felt bad about it either. Strange. I went into that grocery store just trying to check off a list and ended up learning something about people, about entitlement, about how easily lies can spiral. I think that's what unsettled me most. It wasn't just about the cart. It was about how she looked me dead in the eye while taking something that wasn't hers, and how, when caught, she acted like I was the problem. Sometimes I still think about that moment. My hand gripping the cart, hers refusing to let go, the quiet defiance in her stare. It was such a small, ridiculous standoff, but it represented something much bigger. Now every time I pass that grocery store, I remember that Saturday. The bright fluorescent lights, the chaos of people, the weight of the moment when I realized how far some people will go just to avoid accountability. And maybe that's why it felt so satisfying to watch her walk out. Not just because I'd won some petty argument, but because, for once, someone like that actually had to face consequences. It's weird how life hands you these tiny, ridiculous battles. You don't ask for them, but they reveal things about you. I learned that I'm a lot more patient than I thought, but also that I'll stand my ground when it counts. So yeah, that's how a simple grocery run turned into a showdown with the infamous cart lady. I didn't set out to make anyone regret anything. But she did, and I think that's fair.